From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Ladies and gentlemen, Danny Kaye.
Thank you very, very much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I must say I'm delighted to be back. A little breathless, but delighted. I just hope you don't find it monotonous, my popping in on you like this every year. Since we last visited together, I've been doing a considerable amount of traveling. And I must say, the more and more I travel, the more I find out that people are the same the world over. That they behave exactly the same. Oh, it's true, their language may be a little bit strange to us, and their customs may be different. But by and large, people basically behave exactly the same way. I think I can best illustrate it to you by telling you a story, something that happened to me just a couple of years ago. I was playing up in San Francisco. One afternoon, I went out to play golf. And I was sitting in the locker room after having played 18 holes. And was having a glass of beer or something. Two fellas walked in, sat down, took their shoes off, leaned up against the locker. One fella said, 2-foot putt. How do you like that 2-foot putt this big? I could have kicked it in. 2-foot putt this big. I was knocking them in from 8 feet, 10 feet. I had a 16-footer. This was a 2-foot putt this big. I could have closed my eyes and kicked it in. Missed the putt, blew the whole match. How do you like that? Well, the same thing happens all over the world. I was playing golf at Saint Cloud in Paris. I was sitting in the locker room having a glass of wine. Two fellas walked in, sat down, took their shoes off, leaned up against the locker. Un petit peu put. Je le baron sauteur, c'est incroyable, je le baron sauteur, hein? Un petit peu, je le baron sauteur, les élévateurs, c'est terrible, hein? Je le baron sauteur, c'est le baron, les 12 men doivent jouer, c'est le baron sauteur. In Germany, a few months after that, I was sitting in the locker room having a glass of beer. Two fellas walked in, sat down, took their shoes off, leaned up against the locker. 2 Fuß! Das kleine Putt haben sie ausgehüben, das Gräume, die Helden, das Knäbet. 2 Pfund, das kleine Gepatz haben sie ausgeblüht, das. Da Augen haben sie geschlossen, Greife die Hälse. I was in Hong Kong last July. You know, just before we did this show, I was over in England. And I played at a golf course called Addington. Very hoity-toity. That's true. I was sitting in the locker room having a warm glass of beer. Two fellas walked in, sat down, took their shoes off, leaned up against the locker. One fella went. The other one said, pity. As I say, people are people, and sometimes I think we all take ourselves a little bit too seriously. We spent a most wonderful afternoon. We drove up to Scotland, and we visited the little cottage where the famous Scots poet Robert Burns was born. And I'm sure he must have been thinking about this 200 years ago when he said, "Oh, what some power the giftie gie us, to see ourselves as others see us." Wouldn't it be kind of fascinating if we could see ourselves the way other people do? I wonder how we look to them. I wonder what we look like to our children, our friends, our wives, even our employers. Do you know that in the course of one day, 24 hours, a man is many things to many, many people?